Choonara.
Right, we're going to talk personal excellence as we always do with Imraan Choonara, the CEO of Africa Muslims Agency. Imraan, appreciate your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. It's always great to be with you guys at Salam Media.
Absolutely right. You're going to talk examples today. What does that mean?
Well, frankly, I think a more sophisticated term we could have used would have been the word legacy. The challenge, however, is that most people, when they use the word legacy, have no real idea what it actually means. Because most people think the word legacy is typically relates to money, for what they leave for their family after they die, maybe business, maybe whatever the case is. They think that's their legacy, so to speak. So most people, when they say the word legacy, it's become a buzzword recently, where people talk about, I'm working on my legacy, whatever the case is. Now, when you say I'm working on my legacy, or I'm going to work on my legacy one day, what does it really mean anyway? Does it mean you're going to build something, you're going to do something that you're going to pass on to the next generation? But let's just stop for a second. You're doing something every single day that's passing on to the next generation. Your example, and that's why legacy sometimes can be a big word, a nice buzzword, and we can talk. A mentor of mine mentioned to me many, many times that, Imraan, lots of people can talk a big game, very few people can play a big game. And another phrase he uses often, which is a tongue twister, but here's it: your walk talks and your talk talks, but your walk talks louder than your talk talks. Yeah, and too many times we're talking legacy, but we're not doing legacy. And frankly, the reason I use the word example, because we all know what it means. We all think I must be an example to my kids. I must be an example to, and we often think about only as a parent. But frankly, you and I are an example everywhere we go.
But let me question this here. Example is what you do, and you can be a good example or a bad example. Is legacy not the impact? So it's not the same thing. I mean, it's the flip side of it. It's an impact of what you do by your example, but legacy really is the impact. So, for example,
exactly.
Ibrahim Gangat, the late Ibrahim Gangat, who sat in this hot seat, his legacy is that he was a stellar broadcaster. Why? Because of the example of him being consistently and incredibly enthusiastic, and his ability to connect with people's hearts. That's his example, and therefore he's left that legacy. I mean,
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And the way you phrase is important, because you see, too many times we think legacy is a positive thing. Legacy can be positive or negative. Legacy is what you leave by what you do. It's what you leave by what you do. So when we want to work on our legacy, how are you going to work on it? You work on it daily, by every single day what you do. Then you can leave something. And by the way, we will all leave something. Whether it's positive or negative is determined by what we do. So you're absolutely right, Ashraf, because that legacy will be determined by what we do daily. And a good phrase as a parent you want to remember, and just as a human being anyways, don't be concerned that your children are not listening to what you say. Be more concerned that your children are watching what you do, because ultimately they will do what you do, not what you say. Now, we all know that we say that, it's a nice thing to say, but do we really internalize it? Because ultimately, everything we do, when we're not here, even when you leave a room, by the way, the legacy you left in that room by what you did in that room, when you leave a company, when you leave a particular situation, when you leave a difficult situation, if you're interacting with people in a conflict situation, when you leave that conflict situation, did you leave a negative legacy in that situation, or did you leave a positive legacy in that situation by what you did while you were in the situation? So legacy is not only after we die. It's when you leave something, you've already left a legacy in that situation.
So lastly, as we wrap up in 30 seconds, what do you want the person watching and listening to us now? What's the one thing they must do in 30 seconds?
Be very aware, be deliberate and intentional about what you do daily. And do the small things. If you focus on the small things, the big things will take care of itself. Focus on your daily example, your legacy will take care of itself.
Absolutely. That's where we can leave it. To be aware. That means a height of awareness of all the actions that you take. Great chatting to you as always, Imraan. We'll do it again tomorrow from the African Muslims Agency, talking personal excellence. Thanks for your time. We should be chatting to Abdullah Barachia, but he's in a board meeting today, so we can't talk to him. Looking forward to connecting or reconnecting with him tomorrow. What we can do, in fact, is pick up on the issue as to the George Floyd trial. That is, in terms of his murder, firstly, sadly, it's reached a conclusion overnight. We'll pick up on that with Brooke Spector right after this.
Connect with Salam